Hello everyone, welcome back. It's been a few minutes. On to part 2 of this question and answer. Like I said in the first video, I'm doing my best to try to get some answers to questions that people have had, and I can't really do it so much in the comment sections anymore because the channel's getting a little bigger than I can keep up with just those written comments. And so the way we're doing this is I'm going to read through as many of these questions that got posted in 10 minutes per video and try to keep it nice and succinct for you guys and get as much answered as I can. So next up, Aaron Gutierrez. Will you ever do a meet and dead conventional style, at least for fun? I have no idea. I do train my conventional in my off-season times, and I've done a 650, I want to say either a 645 or a 650 conventional for a triple, kind of out of the blue. I feel like if I trained it for any length of time, I could probably pull over 700 conventional, and who knows, maybe someday. I like having it as something that's trained in case I ever have an injury in a meet and can't pull sumo for some reason. If I have a hip something happen and I am forced to pull with the opposite form, I've seen guys do that before, and I'd like to be ready for it in case something like that happens. So maybe, we'll see. Kevin Visser. How do you see the future of powerlifting? How do we grow the sport and eliminate the common misconceptions of powerlifting moving forward? There is so much right now in the sport of people having just these built-up walls. The federations that are considered the more legitimate federations look down on the other federations for having lax judging or lax records or whatever, and the federations that are, I would call, more lifter-friendly and a little bit more about seeing people succeed as opposed to having these other rules, will look up at those other federations and call them snooty. And both parties are to blame for why it can't move forward. To see it go forward, you'd probably have to have the more legitimate federations be a little bit more open to others and allow them in. And a lot of it right now is political. A lot of powerlifting is a political thing, and it can't move forward as long as the political boundaries exist. And where do I see it going? I don't see it going a whole lot farther until that happens. And I always tell people, if you want to see a change, you have to be the change and you have to make the change. And I'm not in a position right now where I can do much more than do my own thing and focus on my own journey and try to share it with others and hopefully act as an example of how I'd like others to be. So I hope that answers your question. Chris Gilbert, Smurfette, whore, or just misunderstood? Well, I think the answer to that question lies within yourself, and you just need to reflect on it some more. But I will say, it's got to be hard being the only female character in an all-male cast. I'm just going to put that out there. Dallas Stoltz, are you still not taking any supplements? Do you ever do cardio? If so, what kind? I generally am not doing cardio right now because I'm trying to fit better into this 220 weight class, and if I start doing, along with eating everything I can find, if I started doing cardio, I'd start losing weight incredibly fast. As for my supplementation, I am not currently taking, I started taking fish oil again. I have a joint supplement. USP Labs makes a joint supplement called Super Cissus. I take that. It helps alleviate my shoulder issues, my elbow issues, and my knee issues that have plagued me in the past. And I just started taking fish oil that I bought at Fred Meyer. Honestly, right now I haven't even had a protein shake in a long time. Not because I feel like I'm above it or anything. I'm just not supplementing. I found that when I stopped taking supplements, my performance didn't drop off nearly enough to warrant me spending money now that I would pay for them again. So I guess that's the answer to that. Alex Cope. What is the best way to build the top of the deadlift? I always get stuck a couple inches above the knees on maximal effort sets. With most lifting, I would say that even if you're getting stuck at the lockout, a lot of times it has to do when you're getting out of position at the start. Since I haven't seen a video of your lift and I don't really know what it looks like, I'll try to cover my bases as best as possible. Generally, lockout strength has to do with your ability to hold onto the bar. Is your grip strength solid enough that you can stay with it and fight through it, and your ability to squeeze your glutes and press your hips through, whether a conventional or a sumo pull. I used to do a lot of oh my gosh, I can't even remember what they're called now. Hip thrusts. I would do hip thrusts. I'd rest my back on a bench or in a box and load a bar, pat it as much as I could, and do hip thrusts. And I did those really heavy for a long time. I worked up to I could do 650 for a set of 5, and I knew that helped a lot with my deadlift. I will say that was probably way too much weight because I ended up getting some numbness in my left leg from pressing on some of those nerves. But I do think that that exercise, hip thrusts, stiff leg deads, anything where you're really just lengthening the range of motion so you have to go through farther, I think it just is going to benefit you. I will say generally I am not a big fan of rack pulls or anything that cuts the partial range, because if you start doing that, you feel like you're working your lockout, but because you're getting there from a different position, your start position may suffer, and when that happens, you will have even harder times with the lockout, generally because you're not getting the same position. If you can make every single rack pull and every single block pull that you do look exactly like it would from that spot in a full pull, then I would say go for it. I am not capable of doing that. It throws me off completely, and my pulling mechanics look totally different when I'm pulling from a partial range of motion, so I always pull from the floor or from a deficit. And I feel like when you strengthen all those things, it will make your pull better. And with a solid start and enough speed, your lockout problems will hopefully disappear. I hope that helps a little bit. People keep doing things, and I'm getting notifications, so that doesn't help. Harlan Skizurek. Okay. Could you touch on life balance and coping with lifting, work, and family life/relationships? At times I find myself overwhelmed and unable to cope. Also, best bench builder. Thanks, Ben. Balance in your life is about two things. It's about time management, and it's about how much you care about something. The things that are the most important to you are the things that you will make time for. And if something is not getting your time, a lot of it is because you are not putting enough effort to make that happen. The second part is the time management. When you have these things in your life, you set aside these order of operations, I guess, the order of importance, and the things that you care about the most need to be put first, and everything else kind of falls away. That doesn't leave a whole lot of time if you have many things you care about, and you have to start making sacrifices about the things that aren't as important to you. For me, that ended up being things like really common social activities, drinking, smoking, things like that, not important to me. I cut them out. I have to balance the things that I care about. I care about my friends, I care about my lifting, I care about music, and I care about my school. My family's in there too. But those things take most of my time, and so you basically just have to go through and sift out all the other things and just fill your time with what you care about and learn to ignore the rest of it. Best bench builder? For me, bench pressing. When I started benching more often, my bench went up. When I generally I had tricep problems. I would come up really uneven. I always thought it was a shoulder issue because I had a torn ligament in my shoulder, but what it ended up being was that my triceps were getting more fatigued, and because I always favored the shoulder, I didn't get nearly as much tricep work on it. And so when I started just hammering my triceps with lots of pushdowns and high volume frequency on those, my bench actually improved even more than when I was doing any kind of shoulder work. So personally, what helped me the most, a lot of triceps and benching often. I think I have time for one more here. Can you do a diet vlog? When I start tracking my food again, yes, I can. Until that happens, I cannot. And that was fast enough. I can do another one. Joe Cristando. He has 3 questions. At what point in your journey did you decide to start competing, and what was the biggest external influence over that decision, if any, and what was your primary motivation? When I first got into lifting, I wasn't looking into powerlifting specifically. I was more doing it for sports and to become stronger. When I started lifting, my high school had a team, and I was fortunate enough that we had a really good coach, and his name is Eric Stanfield, and he pushed me to pursue being better. And my biggest external influence, I guess, is that the team existed and he was there, but my biggest internal influence is that I never learned more about myself than when I was pushing myself physically. You have those inner conversations that make you develop as a person, and from a really young age I started to feel excited about that, and I was learning more about me from doing this thing. And so I did my best to continue getting better. I was not very good at lifting when I started. My numbers were not better than the other people in my weightlifting class, but I was probably the most consistent of the people and the most likely to keep doing it because it mattered to me and because I had that connection with it, and that brought me to where I am. I'm going to save your other two questions, Joe, for part 3. It may end up being a pretty long series of videos that I post tonight, so wish me luck, and I will talk to you guys in a few minutes. Bye.